Look, effective communication is important for a number of reasons. One of the reasons, firstly, I think, is that when you can speak effectively and elegantly, it boosts your self-esteem, your self-confidence as well. And that in turn allows you to feel more credible and more authoritative in what you're doing. It also contributes to building strong teams and working collaboratively with people. And that also, I think when you can communicate effectively with people, you are also helping build and establish trust and confidence within those teams. Ultimately, if you're able to communicate effectively, you're going to probably feel a lot more satisfied and rewarded with the job that you're doing. And we all know that people who feel valued, supported, satisfied and rewarded at work, usually we see less absenteeism, less lost time, less sick days. So, the benefits come back in spades to them. One of the key things with effective communication, and we see that in lots of job ads as well, communication skills are right up there as the top number one requirement in almost all jobs, is that if you're wanting to advance your career, if you're wanting to progress, then it's going to be really important to have those key effective communication skills.
Wendy, why communication? What's brought you to this and made you so passionate about it?
I think actually I've always been a communicator. In fact, my family, who know me well, will say, I could talk underwater. And when I was in primary school, in fact, my grade 1 teacher actually said to my mother, well, let's call her the Meena Creek Advocate, because I was almost like a journalist wanting to report and talk about everything. So it started from a very early age. I suppose then I ended up actually doing a degree in journalism at CQU. The interest, the passion for communication continued in the types of jobs that I was doing. So I've always worked in the education and training sector, always been out there talking to people, communicating, using strong interpersonal skills relating to people. And I certainly needed those when I took a major decision about 18 years ago now. My family and I decided to head to France, and I ended up living there for 11 years, had a communication skills training business over there, teaching English and other communication skills. So again, that came back, and then I find myself in an education role at the moment. And it just sort of feels like it's always been my passion, and from virtually the word go, and it still continues to be my passion today.
And effective communication, no one ever complained about somebody communicating too effectively.
No.
It may be over-communication sometimes, or under-communication, or not appropriate communication. And the ways that we communicate have evolved over the years with the addition of technology. Tell us about some of the changes that you've seen and the things that maybe continue now,
Yes.
or the things that have maybe changed.
I started work a long time ago, probably nearly 40 years ago now. It's extraordinary the amount of change that has occurred in the way we communicate, the way we relate to people, and how our workplaces are set up for that as well. I remember back in the days when obviously you would use manual typewriters, you'd type up a letter and then it would be sent to the typing pool, and then it would come back maybe a few hours later for some changes. And then when it was approved, it would then be, you'd put it in an envelope, you'd go down to the mailbox, you'd send that letter away, and then you'd wait a couple of days maybe for a reply. If you needed to talk to somebody, most times we often just got up from our desk and walked over to see somebody, or we'd walk to the next.
Controversial.
Yes, quite, oh my gosh, quite radical stuff. When, the emails came in, and I can't believe actually in my late 20s I went travelling overseas without any access to the internet, emails, no mobile phone. And I tell young people today, and they look at me as if, how did you possibly do that?
Yes.
It's impossible. How could you possibly travel without those modes of communication that we're so used to. And I just can't believe I would do something like that today. So seen a lot of, different changes, obviously, the internet, emails, the way we communicate. And then in recent times with COVID, and now we're in what we call a post-COVID phase, we're seeing a new hybrid model of people working from home, working also remotely, but coming into the office, and different teams working in different ways now. It's really demanding a whole new take on things and a whole new way of being able to communicate with the people we work with and to relate to them in different ways. It's such a rapid change, and what's interesting is that we have people in the workforce now, people who were born in the last 18 years who have never known a life that didn't involve the internet or instant communication. We have people who are in their 30s and 40s who perhaps have known a little bit of that life. And then now we still have people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and a lot of us are staying on longer to work. We have actually moved from what we knew, what communicating was like in the 70s and 80s, and now having to adapt. So one of the big things is also adaptability and being able to adapt to the new ways of working and communicating.
And the expectations that come with that. One of the things that opened my eyes to the different styles of the communications in different forms, because we have face-to-face, we have phone calls, we have text messages, we have social media messages, we have so many different ways to communicate. And somebody said to me once, "Oh, I thought you were cranky in that message because I'd used a full stop." And I said, "No, that's just how I write sentences." And that was a generational thing that myself as a 30-something had a disconnect with the generation younger to me.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And it might be something that, we might end up having a whole session on, talking about communicating in multi-generational teams, because I think I was only saying to my husband the other day, in fact, the growth and how we have moved so quickly in the way we communicate and relate, it's quite mind-blowing now. It may not have been, in years gone by, in decades past, but we now have these multi-generational teams, and that's where I think also, conflict can happen, and we can have communication issues where people, like myself, I mean, I've embraced certainly the, internet and emails and texting, but I still find it really, I think it's best to speak face-to-face to people, because as you say, you can lose a lot of some of the nuances, which can make a big difference. And that's where misunderstandings can occur as well. And I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact of how important it is to still have that face-to-face, where we, even if it is on video, we're still seeing the person, we're still picking up on, their body language cues as well. Because, if it's just still text and emails, we can lose a lot in the communication. It seems like it might be the way to go, but I think we still absolutely need that face-to-face.